we are not too lucky with the technique now.
Voilà, on est... Ah, mais je continue à perdre votre image là, et je vois une photo d'un monsieur en lunettes.
Ah bon, je suis pourtant, ma vidéo est là.
Maintenant, ça marche.
Okay, so can we think about addiction? If we think about a muscle, if one wants to train such a muscle every day and increase, let's say maybe different exercise, can we think that at a certain point this will create some addictions that after maybe 10 days of training such muscle, the person is bounded to do it, because of secretion of some substance or
Well, everything happening in the mind happens in the brain, of
yeah.
course. And we know that that what we are doing changes the brain, not only for the moment, but substantially and for the long term. For example, musical training changes a part of the brain called corpus callosum that connects the hemispheres. Because in order to make music, you would have to have very fast connections between left and right side. Think of a pianist with a cleft brain,
Yes.
a split brain.
Yes.
That wouldn't work because his left hand would do things that the right hand wouldn't know about.
Yes.
Just like Jesus' remark, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And of course, music is an interesting example of awareness, because to make music is an exercise of awareness as such, both an awareness to what you are playing yourself and especially to what other people are playing. So you have to pay attention to other people, which is special. I mean, some people can only pay attention to themselves, and they can not be good musicians, I think. And but paying attention to other people, paying attention to themselves, create a sort of chain reaction, because the other pays attention to you are paying attention to his paying attention to you are paying attention to something, namely the music. So, which becomes spiritually objective in the sense that it exists as a sort of transitional object. That's a psychoanalytic term for it. Very good term, I think. Rhythm is built in that way. You don't own the rhythm. When you play with someone,
Yes.
and you miss the beat,
Yes.
you can say, "No, I didn't miss my beat. I just missed your beat." And the other will say, "No, you missed the beat."
Yes. Oh, yes.
Where beat? Where's the beat? Well, the beat is where the beat is, namely between us.
Yes.
It's a transitional object par excellence.
Yes.
That's a good example, I think, because in language, I can do the same thing. I can say, "Hey, your criticism shows that you missed the point. There is a point. Is it my point? No, it's the point."
Oh, yes. Okay.
Discussion, something like, "What is the point?"
Yes.
Something that we have to share in order to have a discussion about that point.
Yes.
So to train awareness is, of course, to train this thing. Now, in music, there's another thing that interests me highly, namely that you can learn to improve your sensibility. So the sensibility of another person, namely your teacher, affects the brain that affects the mind of the person learning.
Yes.
So something like, if I show you that my awareness to something is such and such, then the very fact of pointing to it and showing it to another person affects that person's awareness to it. When I had a music teacher, of course the teacher told me that he could hear a difference between two versions of a phrase. And I said, what's the difference? Here's the phrase and here's the other one. That's the same thing, no? No, it's not the same thing. Listen, it's okay, I now see what you are saying. I see what you are hearing, right? There's a sort of mental seeing about the hearing that pops up. So that's the part of what it is to train the muscle.
But can we use awareness in, for example, we use it also in politics or in the Red Cross. For example, they want to create awareness in a way it's mixed with some kind of we are aware something go wrong. It's the word awareness is also used in that direction.
Well, it's always about something being wrong. Always.
Yes.
I mean, any distinction we make between A and B is that either A is better or B is better.
Yes. Okay.
Otherwise, why would you make a difference?
Yes.
If both are good, well, it's just whatever.
Yes.
It's something about our mind, the architecture of our mind makes distinction when it has to do choices.
Yes.
And choices are about finding something to be bad and not doing that, not going there, right?
Yes.
Right? But it's always like that. That's the principle that Saussure introduced into linguistics about the distinctive oppositions between phonemes. When you hear something, you have to hear a distinction between, for example, in Danish, you're in Denmark, between an A like an apple, and an A like æble, like apple and æble.
Yeah,
in French, that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But if you can't hear that difference, you will use the wrong one when you write it.
Yes, because you cannot perceive it. You cannot spot it. But
you have to train the muscle in order to do that.
Yes.
And you have to do that to learn to speak Danish, for example.
Yes. But can we also do that, for example, to have people looking at the news in the evening at the TV-avis, looking the news, and let's say do an exercise of training awareness muscle when they see propaganda, for example. So let's say a way not to get fooled. So to train the awareness muscle not to get fooled by propaganda, for example.
Yeah, I mean that's what semiotics is about.
Yeah.
Namely, to pick up the distinctions and make them explicit, and then teach them, just like music.
Yes. So it's to give them different codes so they can understand, regulate what they feed up with.
Yeah.
Some kind of filters or.
Yeah. For example, well, you have to find the parameters for doing the analysis.
Yes.
So, for example, the way you cut in a news program. I studied American news programs and compared them to. We did that in Cleveland. It was very interesting.
Yeah.
Compared them to Israeli and Arabic news programs and Danish programs and so on.
Yeah.
In order to see how the length is one parameter, right?
Yes.
Of one piece of news.
Yes.
One piece of news is a little story, and it can go down to 30 seconds, and then it can, of course, expand to some 2-3 minutes if it's really something people pay attention to. And you can see that if you compare the content to the length, the emphasis attributed to the content is another parameter. And if you pair that in an XY system, in a Cartesian functional system, you will see that there are variations that are very important between the two parameters. In a news program, there can be, if you have half an hour of news program, not all of them are down to 30 seconds, of course, otherwise you would have 60 stories, right?
Yes.
60 stories is a lot. Normally, right?
There's a parameter.
So you have to do it's just like phonetics in language, right? like where's the boundary between two sounds?
Yes.
Where's the boundary between two narrative atoms in a news program?
Yes.
I mean, paying attention to that has its price, right? For a moment, you have to forget what it's about in order to just get the rhythm of it. The metrics is just like poetic metrics.
Oh, yes.
It's something that film people have found out also, that you have a sort of phonetic function in film. Namely, the shots, how long, how short. You know that from video clips. If they are, sometimes they go down to 3 seconds, but try to go below 3 seconds, you'll see what happens. The brain of the viewer will scream. Sometimes your video clips are working on the boundary of the screaming limit.
Yes. So people can develop, the boundary can be moved also to a certain type of, for example, people can say torture on TV without reacting now. Let's say they can say some very things, but they do something in their body, so they are protected to see it, but they see it at the same time. Is it something they develop also as a muscle, un muscle d'indifférence ou?
Well, it depends on. I mean, it's just like music again. You have to see a video clip as a piece of music.
Yes.
Namely, look at it formally.
Yes.
I commented in French on formality here.
Yes.
And what is formal perception? Well, that's something basic that you will have to find. And you can find it in situations of lovemaking, for example.
Yes.
What it is. And every time you say you love something, it could be a work of art or a person, etc., you get formal perception. First thing you have to train is formal perception in order to get to an analytic approach to things, right? And to be able to criticize them. Then you go in and say, for example, in scenes of very emotional content, like torture, as you say, of course, how many seconds of torture can you take? It's just like in music, how much dissonance can you take? Well, it depends on the volume, but it also depends on the timing, right? You can do. It depends on the tempo and the length of the phrase. And of course, if people are not paying attention to what they see, of course, they receive a lot of information that is manipulative and brutal and stupidifying. In fact, you can make people stupid.
Yes.
But you can fight against stupidification by teaching a critical attitude. Yes. But it doesn't, suffice to say you have to be critical. Be critical now. 1, 2, 3. You are now critical.
So you have to stimulate the. So how do you provoke that? You just say to people you have to be critical.
Yeah, and people say no. What I heard you say would be you have to be negative, and people don't want to be negative.
Yes.
No, you have to be discriminative then. Something like you have to see distinctions.
Yes. Yes.
That's for sure going.
Yes.
Once again, you have to see distinctions.
Yes.
To train distinctions is to fight against the stupidity effect of the media bombardment. But first thing is we will have to understand that it's not easy. It's not easy. You will have to find the parameters and find pleasure in following these formal variations. So that's the positive thing of it. You can follow the formal development of the style of a news program, and you will see that as manipulation happens, certain formal features will characterize it. For example, if you see a counter relation between length and importance, it means that the the background editor stops something from being said.
Yes.
If you have a direct proportionality between length and content importance,
Yes.
I mean, content's importance is easy to
Yes.
detect because it's emotional.
Yes.
Like, for example, torture. If you give people a long sequence of torture, they will react emotionally and be critical to it, right?
Yes.
Naturally. But if you shorten it, people will say, "Oh, that's nothing. It's just normal."
Yeah. But this can be increased. The level every day you can show more.
You can, make it normal.
Yes.
You do that by having an inverse proportionality between the length and the emotional content.
But
and you can show that to people.
Yeah.
It takes a couple of hours of you have to take the programs and then sit down with a watch and that can give you the seconds.
Yes.
And time it as you would do as a film clipper.
Yes.